So my name is David Cross. I own an investment management firm. We do financial planning and investment management in Duluth, Georgia. I've been in the business for about 30 years. I can't believe it.
And what is your connection to the election and what you're going to tell us?
So I'm just a concerned citizen. I reached out to some folks to just kind of figure out what happened on election night. I went to bed thinking, that looked pretty solid that Trump was going to win, and then woke up the next morning and I'm like, what on earth happened? So I started diving into the data. Thank you. And Garland just showed you this slide a couple minutes ago, but what I did was I was able to go in and pull down the entire data feed from the Edison feed, which comes from Seidel, which comes from the Secretary of State. It's not perfect, but it's what we have because the Secretary of State won't give us the original data feed. So how do we just go sideways here? All right, so what you're looking at here is the big spike that happened, and this blue line right here, it happened in 4 states. That's impossible. There'll be other data analysts that'll show that to you. I'll skip past this. This just shows you additional vote spikes that happened in after hours. Anybody who wants a copy of this, I'll send it to you. There, of course, is, all right, so why don't we have original timestamp data? Secretary of State won't give it to us. All right, if this is a transparent election, why are citizens not able to see it? And with so many issues, why is the Secretary of State not investigating? Why do I have to take time out of running my business and taking care of my clients to come down here and do the work of the Secretary of State? That's inexcusable. Here's Michigan. You see the exact same vote spike that happened where Biden got 141,000 votes and Trump got 5,900. Not possible. There's the same Michigan vote spike graphically. Here's Wisconsin, same thing. 143,000 votes come in for Biden, 25,000 for Trump, same vote spike. All right, what I'm going to show you now is what I actually witnessed at the second recount, the ballot recount that happened down at the World Congress Center. When I was down there, they had 13 scanners that were set up. We were able to go through and take a look at the scanners as they were pushing ballots through. I could get this close to the ballots if I wanted to. You couldn't see anything. I mean, it was just running through 100 miles an hour. I could get this far away from the monitors that the scanners were using. I couldn't read anything on the screen because the font was shrunk down so low. So me as a monitor walking around looking at the rescans was pointless. So another part of the area they had, they call them ballot totes. All right, it's a black suitcase with a locking mechanism to it. I went through and looked at. They had several hundred of these black suitcases lined up, and I'm walking through the different lines of them, and I see that there are these 9 that don't have secure tabs on them. No red tab. I walk back over and tell a couple of my other friends that are over there that are witnesses, and they said, David, that's not possible. Every single one of those has got a red locking tab on it. So I took them back over, and as I approached one of the bags, its zippers were close to the floor. I pointed at it with my foot 6 inches away, and a lady comes running over and says, you just kicked that bag. You can't do that. You're out of here. She brought 2 security guards with her, and she kicked me out. But not before a lady from the press actually got a picture of the bag. You can see it right there. There's no locking mechanism on it at all. And there's a close-up of the actual identifier, of the tag identifier. This is not supposed to happen. When I looked at the bags, there could have been anywhere from 0 ballots inside that bag, which was unlikely since so many people were voting absentee, because this is where the absentee ballots were kept. The largest number I saw in any one bag was 3,411. If you take the average between 0 and 3,400, you get 1,700. Multiply that times 9, you get 15,200 ballots, potentially, that are unaccounted for, no chain of custody. 15,000 ballots is enough to throw Fulton County into not being certified. And in fact, when the Fulton County Board of Elections met, 2 of the board members voted not to certify. So if Fulton County's out, then the whole state's out. Here's a better close-up. There was a story that was done by the press. She just took my statement, put it up online. Now what I want to get to is, how does this happen and why is this relevant? This gentleman, Bernard Talmadge, owns a company called the Operations Group, Ardley Group, and we also think Block by Block. He is a known ballot harvester. He has been caught in Indiana. Charges were brought against people that work for him, but they were ultimately dropped because the authorities said it couldn't really affect anything. It's not a big deal, so they let it slide. What we know is that there were ballots here on the left, or not ballots, checks that were found in 2018, several hundred, all made out for $75. I'll go back here. Made out from the Operations Group and sometimes from Ardley Group for $75. There's an investigative reporter down in Florida named Tom Lauder that did a write-up about this, and what he found was, in interviewing witnesses, he found out that people that worked for the Operations Group and the Ardley Group were paid $15 per hour to produce ballots. Now, they had a quota of 10 per hour, which works out to 1 every 6 minutes. If you're running door to door in an apartment complex, you couldn't get 1 ballot every 6 minutes. It's not going to happen. You couldn't get 1 registration every 6 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So how does that happen? And incidentally, his companies, according to the Federal Election Commission, have taken in $9.1 million for field operations. $9.1 billion, when you divide that by $75 and multiply it times 50 votes, that's enough money to produce 6 million ballots. So here's a spreadsheet from last night from all the people who gave him money. One of the crazy things that's on here is that 1/3 of the $9 million came from the main Democratic Party. They didn't even take in $3 million during the 2019-2020 election. So I sent this letter out to a bunch of check cashers and liquor stores, 400 of them. Again, me doing the work of the Secretary of State. Sent it out, and I had 2 folks that called me back. One provided copies of checks from 2018. Here again. Here's a check. This one's for $80. I blocked out the name of the person who received it. But this was payment for field services. What's interesting is that of the checks that were provided, the one on the top here, I don't know if you could see it really well, it says it came from, the check is written on an account from McDreams Enterprises. And on the bottom, the check is written from Ardley Group. Now, the strange thing is that the signature on both of the checks is the same. The routing number is the same. The account number is the same. So what's going on? Again, another job for the Secretary of State, the GBI, and probably the FBI. There's a video that's circulating on the internet of a printer in China that was ordered, or he had an order for 5 million fake ballots to come back. One of the things he said in the video that he could not accomplish was to reproduce magnetic ink. That was one impossibility for him. So if you're going to do a forensic analysis of the ballots, you need to look for paper composition, which International Paper said that they can do, and there's another independent consultant that's up in Wisconsin that can do it. And you also need to do a test for the magnetic ink. This is just some brief data on the total number of registered voters and the 2020 population, just to show you some obvious anomalies here. Alaska has a total of 597,000 registered voters, a population of 734,000. But if you subtract out the number of people under the age of 18, which is 24.6% of the population, they end up with having 43,000 people over-registered. So they have 108% real registered voters. This is where some of the names are come from, we believe, and circulated around. More interesting information for you. This came out this morning. Doug Stafford says, my wife got a text thanking me for voting in the state of Georgia and asking to get her friends to vote. Doug says it's interesting because she's been a Virginia voter for 15 years, never lived in Georgia. So the next obvious question is, well, who the hell is Doug Stafford? He's the chief strategist for Rand Paul. All right, so this is not some nobody that's out there just throwing around some unsubstantiated rumor. B.J. Van Gundy, who sued the state. Here's his actual signature on his driver's license on the left. There is his signature for his absentee application that he did not ask for. One of your colleagues. Here's his signature on his driver's license on the top, and then here's his innocuous signature in the center for his absentee ballot. Do you guys know this guy? Does anybody know him? Okay. This is your duty. You have the power to correct an obviously manipulated election. The governor only reports the vote of the legislature. The question is will you take corrective action? Will you stand up for America, or are you going to sit quietly while China brings in a Manchurian candidate? How will you answer to your grandchildren when they ask, what did you do? I know what I'm going to answer. It's a fantastic documentary for you folks to watch. It's called Kill Chain. It'll show you exactly how these voting machines can be hacked into. I know a lot of folks that are in here, or some folks that are in here will say, oh, that's just a bunch of fanciful BS. It can't happen. Go buy one of the machines and plug it in. And the moment you plug it in, it will say, would you like to connect to the internet?
Thank you.
Last thing, who is this counting ballots?
Thank you.
That's the end of my
Mr. Cross.
statement. Thank you.